You're a fan favorite here. Still. I mean,
Oh, I appreciate that.
now listen, one of the quotes that one of the old timers there, he's probably about my age, put on the forum, the finest pure big man ever at Rhode Island. I mean, they're saying that they remember Ken. So,
Wow.
you know, I remember the games, and I remember that unfortunately every sentence was, if Kenny had better knees. That's how it always went, right?
Yeah, that's the story. That was my story.
All right. So look, let me start off with, give me some, and I want to find, I want you to talk about what you're doing now and all that. But let's start off with, give me a feel for what that experience was for you, and you don't have to be, you know, politically correct in any way. I mean, what was it for you to be in Rhode Island? Where were you from? What was it like your first day, and then what was it like when you were a star? I mean, the whole thing. Tell me about your experience.
Well, basically, coming from Connecticut, small town, well, not so small, but a city called Waterbury. Um, Even having the opportunity to play college basketball was never in the forefront for me. In high school, I was always the number two player. We had a kid who was being recruited by all Big East schools, and it just so happened that Rhode Island was down looking at him. And this is when Brendan Malone was actually coaching, and his wife Maureen uh, actually saw something in me, and actually said to Brendan, "Look at the kid who rebounds with two hands." And from that day, I started getting contact from Rhode Island, and for me, it was a no-win situation. It was a school that showed interest from the first letter that I received from them, from the first phone call that I received from them, and stayed in contact. And so for me, it was a no-win situation. If from that day, from the first letter from them, it was like, this is where I'm going to go to school at. Um, Stepping on a campus, a little strange. Had never seen or been to a university before. With UConn 30 minutes away, 45 minutes away from me, had never been there. But UConn was the big thing for us. Being in Connecticut. But just stepping on a university campus, it was like a whole new world for me. My years at Rhode Island were probably, and this is the God's honest truth, probably the best years that I've had with the people that I've met. And basketball wise, it's tough because athletes always talk about what their accomplishments in basketball and stuff like that, especially at the college level. But for me, it really wasn't the basketball. It was just the feeling of being part of a team, part of a community, part of a state that really appreciated what we did and how we did it. And from that point, it was just my love for the state of Rhode Island and for especially for Ram fans just grew. And it was just something that I would never forget.
Now, how about the team of that age? Because you had, as one of the people put in the forum, there were no lack of guts. I'll use the politically correct word, guts on that team. I mean, you guys, you're, I don't want to say cocky, but you didn't take anything from anybody, right? Tell me about what your teammates were like and what that team was like then.
Well, it wasn't a point of us being cocky. It was the point that, especially when we played bigger schools, um, it was just a feeling for us that everybody took us lightly. We would play schools and people would ask, "Well, where the hell is Rhode Island?" And what is Rhode Island basketball? And for us, that was like a sort of a stab in the back. We knew that we weren't a top, we weren't ranked in the top 25 on a yearly basis. So for us to go in and play big name schools and against big name players, for us it was just a point of proving ourselves. It had nothing to do with us being cocky. We knew we were just as good as other players. We knew we were just as good as other teams. It was just, we came from a small conference, from a small state. So it was the point that we had to basically day in and day out, we had to constantly prove ourselves who we were, what type of basketball we played, and show that, we were able to play with anybody at any time and have fun doing it. As
And
far as the team's concerned, especially our team that went to the Sweet 16, I mean, it was just a bunch of guys that, I mean, and you hear people say this on a constant basis, but we literally would have died for each other. I mean, and that's how much we love playing with each other, being around each other. I see, especially in today's basketball, I watch a lot of games, and you see a lot of players and you see a lot of teams. But I mean, we had a team that was really close knit. I mean, from the first player down to the 12th player. I mean, we enjoyed being around each other. We enjoyed playing with each other, and I mean, I think that's what made us such a special team.
how about during that time when you obviously victories were more sweet because you were underdogs a lot of times, and you beat Kansas, and everybody talks about that. And I just looked at some of the highlights 5 minutes ago. But people go back to the Syracuse game because that was the game where they were the team, and everybody in the Northeast, Syracuse, 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 and you guys went in there and really took that to them, and really, Kenny, you did. So what was that like to realize, because you could almost read it on your face, that partway through that game you knew that you could beat them?
Well, especially with me, in the Syracuse game, I knew Derek Coleman personally. I mean, great guy, and when you play against someone who is so well known in the basketball community, is looked at, well, not probably, but was looked at as being a number one draft pick. It was just the point of me, it was just proving myself, along with all the other guys on the team. I mean, we knew that we were playing a Syracuse team that was, oh, geez, I don't remember what they ranked number 2 in the country, number 3 in the country, somewhere around there. And for us, it was just a point of us proving ourselves. And like I said, we came from such a small conference. Everybody, you knew about the A-10, but in the A-10, you knew about Temple. I mean, Temple was at that point in time. Temple was the big team coming in. Every year they were going to the NCAA's. So it was to the point where we felt that we were just as good, if not better, than Temple. And it was the point of us we just wanted to prove and show people that we're a bunch of guys, basically no name guys, but we're just as hungry, and we wanted to win just as much as anybody else.
Look, I'm hearing through the grapevine that they talked a lot of smack about the Big East during the game, and you gave it back a little bit. Give me the real scoop. Now, people want to know, what exactly did you say? You can bleep out the one word or so there, but what did you say?
Listen, it honestly might be more than one word, but but no, seriously, it was at a point that they're Syracuse, so of course they came in and they took us slightly, and we knew that from jump ball. Just hearing them talk, they're talking. We're from the Big East. We're playing the Atlantic 10. Where is the Atlantic 10? What is the Atlantic 10? So finally, it just got to the point where we just got, especially myself, I got fed up with it. So it just so happened that Ronnie Cycli, and he actually said that, I can't believe we're losing to an Atlantic 10 team. We're from the Big East. And basically my response was, well, you take your Big East and shove it up your Big East block. and and I mean, that was basically it. I mean, at that point on, they were a little trash talking here, but that was the gist of it.
Well, isn't it funny that how many years later there are people who remember sort of how that all went down? I got to ask you something that a lot of people just don't know the feeling of. I mean, what's it like? And we know you had rough knees, or you would have been in the NBA for years. But what is it like when your knees are feeling okay and you can bend down and start that leap, and you know you're going to end up higher than everybody else, and you're going to tear that down with two hands? I mean, give someone who's never going to know that feeling. What's that feel like, Kenny?
Well, what, first, my knee situation. I mean, when I came to the school, I was so blessed that I had coaches who really understood my situation. I know of other players who actually, you know, somewhat went through the same thing that I went through, but didn't have coaching that coaches that actually understood and how to use them. I had great coaches. I mean, especially with Coach Penders and Coach Al. They knew, okay, this kid can only do so much during a week of practice. So it's the point where we're going to get him to do other things during that week. And then once game time came, that's just a little bit more that he can give us, and that was such a great thing. But just being able to, knowing that just that little bit gave me so much more during game time. And then, just to be able to, as you said, bend down a little bit further, jump a little bit higher, it's a tremendous feeling, knowing that, not only is it exciting to you and your teammates, but especially with the crowds that we would have at certain games, at most of our games, it just made it so much better just knowing that they were behind you, and then to, have a dunk in a game, and then to hear our crowd just go crazy. It's just an unbelievable feeling.
If you could only have one feeling, either the feeling of dunking it or the feeling of swatting the ball away on somebody else's shot, which one would you take?
Honestly, it would be swatting it. A block is just so much more because, a block gets your team. I mean, the dunk is exciting. Everybody, it's what everybody loves to see. But a block, that's preventing somebody else from scoring. And then most of the time, most of my blocks ended up in us having a fast break. And everybody knew when our fast break with Tommy Garrick and Silk Owens, I mean, literally, we had the two best guards in the country at that time. So for me to block a shot and then watch them go down the other end as quick as they would, and literally probably 95% of the time it ended up in a basket. That was probably the best feeling.
All right, how about taking us to now? Share where you live, what you're doing. You're still coaching, you're still with the game, right?
Yeah. I had a really nice career. I played 12 years between Turkey, Italy, and Spain, where I spent most of my time. Great time. I saw a lot of places that I never thought I would see as a kid growing up. We retired. The legs just, the knees just couldn't take it anymore. And the thing is, I see a lot of players, especially today, who just don't know when it's time to quit. And it was just to the point with me, I just didn't want to embarrass myself. So I knew it was time for me to give it up. But I wasn't ready to give up the game. So I had a tremendous coach over in Spain by the name of Manel Comas. Took me under his wing for 2 years and just showed me, because the European game is a little bit different from the American game, as we see now, especially in the Olympics with the European teams and how they're doing against the Olympic teams. But he took me under the wing, coached a little bit over there, and then finally got a job over in a small country called Qatar, in the Middle East. Very safe country. At first, when I first got the call, I was really skeptical. The Middle East, I don't know about that, but beautiful country, very small, very safe. But the basketball here just isn't up to par. It's more like Division II basketball, because sports here just isn't received as well by kids. They're building, but they're building slowly. But, it's a good experience for me because it was allowing me to get the position of a head coaching job. And a lot of people say, a head coaching job in the NBA is different from a head coaching job in college basketball, which is true because in college basketball you're doing a lot more teaching than you are in the NBA. And so it was a great stepping stone for me to get to the point where I want to get to.
Now, have you had a chance to come back to Rhode Island or New England or the U.S. in recent years at all?
As far as coaching, I haven't even pursued it, but this is my last year overseas. So I'm coming home. So once I do, I've spoken with my agent a lot about it. He's really excited about me getting into coaching. He's pushing for the NBA level. I'm pushing for the college level. So, once I do get home, I'm really going to sit down and see what's open, what's out there, and see where we can go from there.
Well, you must miss it, and I know the people here miss you. I got to ask you about the hire of Coach Dan Hurley. I interviewed Dan Hurley yesterday, and seems like a great guy, real intense. I know that the first thing that you were worried about is whether he'd stay. What do you think about it overall?
Well, that was my biggest question. I mean, the kid comes from a dynamic family basketball. His pedigree is one of the best pedigrees in basketball. From a family point of view. But the whole thing is, is he gonna? My whole question was he gonna stay? Is he gonna stay more than 2 years? And I understand just looking at the teams from the past couple of years and what they have now, what I've seen them as far as recruiting and stuff like that. It's going to be a building process for him. And it's just a point of how long does he want to deal with building. And, I'm hoping that, that process goes by really fast and he can bypass that step a little bit quicker and have a great team. I wish him the best. Listen, I'm a Ram through and through. And, I want nothing but the best for the guy and for the team and for the school itself. So, I'm really cheering for the guy.
Well, I know a lot of people want to hear from you, and I know the quality of the call is rough, so you're lucky because I'm going to let you go to bed in a minute because I know it's very late out there. So you don't want to tell the people how I taught you those moves underneath the basket? No? Kenny, look, I'm speaking for a lot of people here when I tell you thank you, man, for the memories and for the smile you always had on your face and for the intensity. And you really brought us a lot of excitement, and we hope to have you back home soon.
Jim, I really appreciate it. And, if for fans, you know what, and especially the fans during that time and the fans who are fans now and the guys who have kept up with what I've been doing. And, I really appreciate it. Like I said, from a kid coming from the inner city and to have people really appreciate and show their love for them. I mean, it's really heartfelt and I really appreciate it.
Kenny, thanks for your time. I'm going to track you down in mid-season again.
No problem, Jim.
All right. Thank you. My pleasure, sir.